Marketing is about generating those leads, right? So marketing comes down to communicating, right? So marketing is about communicating a message. What we're looking at here is a bunch of expert communicators. They communicate in different ways, in different platforms, in different formats, but it's all about communication.
Hello and welcome to the Remarkable CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to chiropractors who want to transform their job into a business, so that they can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. With your hosts, Dr. Pete Camiolo and Dr. Stephen Franson.
Welcome back to another episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. I'm Dr. Pete Camiolo.
And I'm Dr. Stephen Franson.
And we are thrilled because Dr. Franson, we are not alone this morning. Man, it's just awesome to be in a room full of experts. I know many of you have been hearing us, if you've listened to this podcast series that we're in on attraction, about the episode we're having with remarkable experts in the digital marketing space. Well, no more waiting. It is arrived. We are excited. We've just been chatting before this podcast about what we're going to be digging into. And of course, this is leading up to an amazing event that we have coming up here in North America in March and then in May in Australia. And the reality is that we know that as a chiropractor, you have been probably frustrated with a lot of the endless changes that have been happening in the digital marketing space. And you're recognizing the need that to create and generate consistent new patients, and also continuing to reach your existing patients. You have to have an ability to reach them through the digital platforms and space. So we have assembled an amazing group of leaders and experts who are serving in our industry, chiropractic, and maybe outside of industry. I don't know, but man, it's exciting to be here today together. Dr. Stephen, I know that we've been anticipating this, and again, we're gonna be able to dig in deep. Probably not as deep as we need to go, but we're gonna at least touch some really important subject matter here today.
Absolutely. I've been chomping at the bit to get to this episode. I'm so excited looking around this virtual room. Who's here? I have the blessing of knowing every one of these people, and most of you really, really well. I get to work very closely with several of you. So I'm excited just to bring this genius together. We have some just awesome guests, and we're going to introduce them to you in a second, each one with a different specialty. This is kind of looking like a spice rack of experts right now. So it's the who's who in chiropractic digital marketing right now. So I'm excited to bring you on a conversation that, frankly, we sometimes take for granted. Like, we have such access to you guys. And, I was saying this to Dr. Pete, I'm like, can you imagine getting access to this conversation? Like, it's very often, behind the stage or out in the hallways or at the bar after an event, we're all hanging around and we're talking, and it goes on for hours typically, especially if Nick Silveri's there and there's a bar close by, right? So we have these fantastic conversations like, man, somebody should have recorded that thing because there was so much gold there. So super excited to get into it today. You guys know that we've got this big event coming up, or a series of events. It's the Attraction Immersion. Each one of these remarkable experts will be contributors at that event. And what we've asked them to do is come together, have a conversation with us, and give us a better sense of what's going to happen at that immersion. And the theme of that immersion is marketing in a post-COVID world. So today we're really going to drill down on digital marketing. As you guys know, we teach about the 3 tributaries of new patients coming into the office, or new patient leads coming into your office. There's internal leads, there's external leads, and then there's digital leads, right? So internal leads are obviously the referrals from your existing patients. Your external leads would come from all activity that would happen outside of your practice that would be offline. And then, of course, digital leads are any leads that come in from tactics or resources or platforms that you've leveraged using the internet, right? So, 2020 was a very interesting year for a lot of reasons. And one of the reasons it became very interesting for chiropractors was because one of those tributaries in most regions, in most parts of the world, really dried up and almost shut down entirely for some communities, right? So in many situations, some of the classic rock hits, the classic hits of chiropractic, being able to get out there and do dinner talks, spinal screenings, corporate wellness, gym talks, church talks, etc. Those things dried up because of COVID. And maybe your community now is still not ready to get a whole bunch of people in a room. So what we found was internal marketing and digital marketing became even more important, which is why I'm so excited about this conversation.
Yeah, it's amazing to have a conversation with this level of a broad reach. The panel of experts that we have here is just amazing. So first of all, I just want to thank each one of you for taking the time to join Dr. Stephen and I today. And thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules and lives to join us. And we have an amazing audience. And so for all of you who are listening, this is one you're going to want to pull over, like Dr. Stephen, you usually say, pull over to the side of the road and get out your notepad and take some notes. We're going to go deep. But before we dig in, I want to do some intros, Dr. Stephen. I think that'd be appropriate. People know who we are. I think they've heard enough of us. You guys want to hear from the experts right now. We have one beautiful lady with us here. So of course it's ladies first. So Lauren, I have the pleasure and honor of being able to get to work with you. I've already learned so much from you in this time that you've been here leading us at the Remarkable Practice. But I would love to hear a little bit from you, who you are, a little bit about you, and then we'll get to everybody else.
My name's Lauren Robertson. I am the marketing director for the Remarkable Practice. You may have seen me in the DC forum on Facebook sharing some little tips and tricks. If you haven't, definitely join. We do this every Thursday. But my big passions are definitely working within social, building that community, building that interaction, and search engine optimization. I love the numbers and making things populate just a bit more efficiently.
Well, I have to say that once you started going live and doing your tactical Thursdays, all of a sudden, like our most active and engagement happened on your posts. I'm like, it's interesting that the person who does marketing is all of a sudden like has all the best posts in our forum. So you definitely have some things to teach us, and we love your passion. And thank you so much for the value you've already added to our awesome drive. I'm going to go to the other side of the world, Dr. France. I'm going to go as far away as I possibly can. We've got Dr. Steve Kirby. Man, it's so good to see you. Thank you for joining us. I know you're coming from another hemisphere. Thank you for joining us for our podcast. And for those who don't know you, tell us a little about who you are, some of your passion, and yeah.
Yeah, so I am a chiropractor from Australia, so we're in the future, so I can tell you guys it's pretty good over here. So basically what we do is we help chiropractors via paid advertising to increase their new patient flow. And I think that in light of what's happened in the last year, we've obviously grown a lot, helping a lot more people, but it's become more and more important to be able to trickle people through, because without digital marketing in all its forms, you kind of have no tap, no water coming into the bucket to draw from to create more referrals and more sort of growth within the practice. So it's been an interesting year, that's for sure.
It certainly has. And you, I know, have had an impact on many practices that I personally get to work with. And I know the value that you've added. And the beautiful thing about this panel, Dr. France, as I'm thinking about, is everyone in here outside of Lauren is actually trained as a chiropractor.
That's right.
So what I've recognized about this amazing group is we all share the same heart, the vision and passion and purpose to help reach more people. And one of obviously our premise in the Remarkable Practice, as well as the Remarkable CEO, is you can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life and not instead of one, a practice or business that doesn't compete with your life, and how important that is. And also knowing that, like you said, because of the broad nature of it, it's not a competition with all the different platforms and ways you have to reach your community and maybe working with different experts. It actually needs to complement. And that's one of the reasons why I love so many of you guys for how well you work with each other in your businesses. And I think that leads me to my brother down in Florida, I guess now, Dr. Nick Silveri from Leverage Media. Nick, we've had the honor of having you on here as a podcast expert, so I know our audience is familiar with your voice. We always love hearing from you. So we know you're passionate, but tell us again who you are and give us a little bit about what you're most passionate about right now.
Well, my name is Dr. Nick Silveri, and I believe that I'm the third largest contributor to this podcast. Like, this is my third time on, so I think that I might be behind you two. So I run, I'm a chiropractor. I have a practice in Illinois, and I am snowbirding in Florida right now to avoid Chicago winter. And I run Leverage Media, which is a content marketing agency to help chiropractors create quality leads, build their brand, and really go beyond just, what a lot of people think of as digital marketing, which is mainly just running a coupon on Facebook.
Beautiful. Nick, you've done such amazing work for so many in our tribe as well. I know you've been one of our platinum sponsors at many of our live events as well. And you continue to serve and support our network and help them reach more people. I love what you've done. I remember the first time I met with you and just hearing you talk about the value and the importance of great content and just spending an hour. I love how generous you are as well with your time. Just taking people under the wing, willing to jump in with them and teach them what you do. You show them behind the scenes, this is what we do. I love that. And I think that's something that, everyone in this room is that way. You guys are so generous. I remember the first time I heard this guy's voice, Jeff, was when I was first studying and learning about the body signals program when I was coming into the Remarkable Practice. And I was like, who is this guy? And then you jumped into, our last year when everything happened and we had to make a pivot and we went from being live to going virtual with our first virtual event. You swooped in and you helped us so much with helping the doctors understand ways that they can reach their people in the community with telehealth, telemedicine. I know that you were learning it as you were applying it, as you were teaching it. I mean, it was an accelerated time, but your heart shone forth so clearly at that time. And we love having you as part of our tribe and family. So Dr. Jeff, quick intro and a little about, again, what you're up to, what you're passionate about here today.
Thank you, Pete. That was a very gracious intro. I'm fortunate to be able to work with you guys and also to work with Steven within Chiro Matchmakers, as well as what I've been able to contribute with the Remarkable Practice. You guys have been building just a fantastic tribe of individuals, and this podcast is awesome. I'm happy to contribute for sure. And over the past year, kind of in a post-COVID world, as we've just started to turn the corner and get beyond, I think consistent connection with your people is something that every doc needs to be able to look for. And when you're unable to do that or suboptimally do that face-to-face with some of those events, as Dr. Steven spoke of earlier, really utilizing digital marketing, utilizing the content piece that Nick's discussed, websites, as we'll hear about from Bo. And I think email is a huge component of this as well. It's just such an important part of continuing to be that health leader and that guide for your patients in your tribe as the world continues to evolve.
I love that. Jeff, maybe you've been listening to our podcast, but one of the things that we've said recently is that consistency is a new intensity. And we've been saying that with CEOs, we have to embrace that. And what you just said, as far as communication, so important. And I know that you have some amazing ways and strategies for us to be able to be consistent in our communication. It's not a good idea. It's essential. And we, again, greatly appreciate who you are. I'll tell you, when I think about chiropractic, there's no one's face that I see more than this guy's face. I don't know how many different groups that he leads and contributes in, but man, he's constantly giving, constantly putting out value, asking just amazing questions and stimulating conversation that needs to be happening in our space, keeping chiropractors from just getting stuck. You keep getting people unstuck, Dr. Bo, with the way that you stimulate conversation and drive that and really lead, man, with you're a thought leader in our space. I love the work that you're doing. I love hearing from Dr. Franson about all the amazing things you're doing as well. Dr. Bo Pierce, thanks for taking the time, get up early to be with us here on our podcast today. Tell us a little about you, man, what you're passionate about and the impact that's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, thanks for allowing me to be here with you guys. I feel like I'm in my family of freedom fighters with us here because I'm a remarkable CEO, as probably most of the people who are listening to this. Matter of fact, I almost debated wearing my wrist straps because I was watching my remarkable machine earlier, and you guys are in the gym like working out and writing on the whiteboard, and I didn't know if I should show up with my rogue shirt on or not. But like I said, I own a small portfolio of companies. Today, I'm here to talk about well-rounded marketing, website marketing. To give you guys kind of the quick and skinny of who I am a practicing chiropractor still. I have 4 associates. I have multiple online companies. And really what this came down to was I went from bouncing around from shiny object syndrome to shiny object syndrome, trying to basically fill the gap to continue to bring new patients in, to actually creating a system that is not only measurable, but it's also repeatable. And most importantly, it's automatable, which means as CEOs, we want to figure out a way that we can not only have a system that we can say, okay, this is accountable, but really who's responsible to it. And in the same vein, use all of our genius and where each of our genius lies to help fuel that system. I know in the CEO program, and Dr. Stephen mentioned it before, there's a lot of this, it's done by you, done with you, or done for you. And I think what you're going to see on this podcast here today is that each of us have our own little specialty. But really, guys, you have to think about it as a bigger system as a CEO and understand how the whole wheel turns. And if and each one of us can plug into certain portions of those, then utilize that, and then utilize that information to help your practice excel. Because really what it comes down to is we're all here to help each other. That's why you're listening to this, whether you're in your car on your way to work, or you're at the gym working out, or it's a Sunday morning and you have a cup of coffee and it's just you, but that's what we're here for. So I'm here to contribute. Like I said, Dr. Pete, Dr. Steven, stoked to be here and willing to give back anything I can.
Thanks, Bo.
And I love it. Thanks so much. I wish you wore the wrist wraps, but that's okay. We'll let it slide this time. But if you ever get a number 2 time on our podcast, please come with your rogue shirt and wrist wraps.
Save it for the attraction immersion, Bo. That'd be perfect.
All right. Last but not least, we have one more remarkable expert, and I have to say, Dr. Patrick, you're the one person on the panel that I have not had an opportunity and privilege of meeting. However, I do know from Dr. Stephen how highly he thinks of you, and how important it was for you to be a part of this podcast and the expert, and being a part of the immersion that's coming up. So Dr. Patrick Donnelly, thank you again for joining us here today. Same questions, a little bit of who you are, what's your passion, what's the most important things right now for you when it comes to these things, and then we're going to dig in deep.
Yeah, well, to follow Dr. Bo's sentiments, thank you for having me. I see a bunch of these big names that I've been following for quite some time, so I'm honored to be here among you guys. I'm a practicing chiropractor in Atlanta. But I run Digital Care 100, and we have created a simple technology that allows any doctor to become a video expert, and then take those videos and distribute them directly to patients with the goal of keeping the conversation going, right? We only get a couple minutes with patients on whether that be a weekly or bi-weekly, a couple times a month. And it's 10,000 plus minutes in a week. If we can get 5 extra minutes with that patient that we via a video delivered to their phone, right? That's going to just provide more clarity, more value, keep the education going, whether that be hammering home something from a table talk that you're doing that day, or whether that be just providing value beyond that visit or answering frequently asked questions, right? And then you can take those videos and have them all in the library at your fingertips so that you can leverage them over and over again for every single patient that might walk through the door, right? We want to keep the conversation going as long as we can to keep that patient coming back in the door, because we know happier patients or patients who keep coming back in the door are going to see better patient outcomes and be happier and refer family and friends.
I love that. It sounds like table talk beyond the table. We say that people, they pay us for our expertise, or they hire us for expertise, but they pay us for accountability. And that the goal of the adjustment, it really is, it's time to educate. And I love that how you've identified that this is a need that, outside of those hours that they're not in our office, how much of that are they actually getting principled chiropractic message and conversation? How much are they actually hearing from you? I love that. And I'm looking forward to learning more about that service and about, so many of the CEOs that we get to work with taking advantage of that. Cause I know that that's a missing piece for so many of us, is to be able to stay in that forefront of our clients, our patients' minds, with the conversation that needs to be happening, that education piece. So Dr. Stephen, man, we are surrounded by a group of experts. I love this conversation we're having. So let's keep it going.
Yeah, I love the CEO perspective on marketing. So, everybody talks about sales and marketing, and that always irks me when people say it that way, is sometimes they'll stick it off into its own function of a business, but it's actually marketing and sales as 2 separate and distinct functions in any business, right? So a CEO understands and appreciates that 2 different roles, 2 different species, frankly, right? So, the purpose of marketing is to generate leads. The purpose of sales is to compel somebody to invest their time, energy, focus, and money to consume your product to get the result that they're looking for to solve the problem that they have, right? So marketing is about generating those leads, right? So marketing comes down to communicating, right? So marketing is about communicating a message. What we're looking at here is a bunch of expert communicators. They communicate in different ways, in different platforms, in different formats, but it's all about communication. It's why I love chiropractic marketing. We all know as chiropractors that promoting chiropractic is an act of kindness, right? So once you know that, you get over the other side of like the hesitancy to, oh man, I'm afraid to market. I don't want to feel like I'm trying to sell my community. Well, when somebody's on purpose, you have to market, right? Once you recognize that it is an act of kindness, it's a moral obligation, frankly, especially nowadays, to get the message to your people. So I'm so excited that we have this group of experts that are going to help us get that message in so many different ways. So everything you're listening to today, gang, as CEOs, I want you to be thinking about the term leverage, right? So you hear us go from having a job to having a business. The difference here is scalability, durability, and transferability, right? So scalability means that you can do more, give more, love more, serve more, make a bigger impact, and make a bigger income, but it doesn't have to all be done by you, right? So you can leverage other people, other systems, and technology. And that's really the spirit of this conversation. So CEOs out there, you know we love you, but you guys are crazy, right? So you think you can do everything yourself, right? So you grew up as an owner operator, you experienced a lot of success as an owner operator, but it's time to grow up and become a CEO and recognize you can't do it, nor should you try to do it all on your own. You should always be looking for leverage, looking for opportunities to leverage other people and their expertise. Leveraging other technologies and systems, et cetera. So what you're looking at here is a panel of people who show up just waiting to be leveraged, right? So Nick, I give you a tip of the hat for the name Leverage Media. You know, I love that. I'd love to just kick this conversation off in the spirit of that and saying, listen, there's some things that need to be done by you as the CEO, or meaning your team. There's some things that should be done with you, right? So some things that you should come alongside of another expert or a contractor or what have you, and it's done with you. And then there's other things you should just have done for you. Like it's a complete and full delegation. And what that means as a CEO is you're going to use your money to buy their time, energy, focus, and talent, to free up your time, energy, focus, and talent. And then the question becomes, what is the highest and best use of your time, energy, focus, and talent to justify the investment of buying their time, energy, focus, and talent with your money? All right. So CEOs, we're looking to spend your money here today because we know that the ROI in marketing is it's at minimum, good marketing is going to be a 3-to-1 ROI, if not a 10-to-1 ROI. Nick Severi, I'm going to kick it off. I'm going to start it with you, man. In the spirit of done by you, done with you, and done for you, give us a sense of, you know, when it comes to content marketing, what kind of direction do you give these doctors as far as, look, this is going to be your responsibility. You've got to do this on a regular basis. This is something that we'll do with you. And this is something that needs to be done for you. You're muted, buddy.
Our process is basically those three pieces. So when it comes to content marketing, I think that there are 3 steps to creating content. Number 1 is knowing what you should be talking about. What's the strategy behind it? Number 2 is actually doing it, like creating the video, writing the blog, whatever it might be. And then number 3 is technically knowing what to do with it, like how to edit a video or upload it to YouTube or whatever you're going to do. Our content model is based off of those 3 steps. So I do one-on-one coaching with our clients, which is a done with you. So like we're masterminding on like, what is it that you care about? Like, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to create? It's not like Nick's practice strategy. It's what's your idea of what your practice should be communicating to your community. And then number 2 is done by you. You need to be the one that creates the content. Like any website company, any content provider that says you don't have to do anything, we'll do it all for you. It's like you can feel better about having something done, but it's not going to be very effective. And then number 3 is the done for you, which is all of the time consuming tech stuff. That stuff, like for us, my team does all of that, and we're much better at it than you will ever be. And so that's really the model that we utilize. And I think that that's the most effective because it gets your voice out, but it like only the parts that only you can do are the parts that you do in our process. And I think that's the way it should be. Like chiropractors that are trying to figure out all of the details of every single new platform that comes along are just wasting their time.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. It's the CEO or the team's job is to create the content itself. And that's where so much of their energy should be, right? So we only have so much time, energy, focus, and money. Your unique responsibility in this space is creating the content that's going to resonate with the people that you want to be serving. Nobody's going to have your voice like you do. Nobody's going to understand your market or what your practice is like you do. That's all going to come across in the content that they're creating. And man, they should try to just to be able to harness as much time as possible, to marshal as much time as possible. So that's where they would spend most of their time, and not getting, bogged down with all of the technology side of things, which is usually the excuse that people use for not churning out consistent copy, is because they just don't have the bandwidth to do it right. So Jeff Langmaid, I'm going to go over you because, you're a content creating monster as well. In this done by you, done with you, done for you framework, you put out so much video content, and I know you work with a lot of docs. Does this resonate with you? What are you seeing, especially now in a post-COVID world?
That's a great question, and I think Nick brought up some fantastic points. I'm going to take a little bit of a different look at it through the lens of email communication, because I think that's still a channel that's just so viable and important for so many docs out there. And I'll take a page out of your book, Stephen, with now, next, and ultimate. And when we talk about done by you, I think about now. It's like, around the country, people are dealing with snow closures and all this. That's a great opportunity for done by you. You just send an email, get out there, tell your tribe of individuals, tell your patients what's going on. Then next is really the done with you. Those are things that are coming in the next few weeks. Maybe it's an event, maybe it's something going on. You're going to be at a location. That's a great done with you, where if you can work with somebody who's helping you with email to craft those sort of custom sequences for things that are coming up soon, the next, that's a great opportunity to utilize it in that fashion. And then the ultimate, and that's the done for you. That's having that consistent automation underneath, where everybody's getting that weekly touch point via an email. Maybe it's a new patient onboarding sequence that's going out automatically that you don't have to mess or touch with whatsoever. So that's really how I think of it in terms of email communication. And I totally resonate with what Dr. Nick brought up as well. It's really about identifying these individual steps of, what can you take on yourself? What's your unique skill and expertise? And then where can you leverage, no pun intended, the areas of strength with other people, other groups, and other individuals to help you scale that out and really build upon it.
Bo Pierce, you look like you chomping at the bit, man. What do you got to add to that?
Yeah, so I think there's two things that are really important here. And I think both Nick and Jeff are touching right on it. I think the first thing is that you, as a doctor, as a CEO, you need to figure out what is your differentiating factor in the marketplace. Like, what makes you you? Why do people come to you specifically? When we bring new clients in at Well-Rounded, that is the very first question that we always ask. Like, why are you different than the guy next door? I think everyone would say, well, I have the cleanest office and we're modern and we have the latest technology. Okay, that's great. But really, what differentiates you? And then the second thing is that you need to be able to find your voice. And the way that you find your voice is just through authenticity. And something that we see so many people struggle with is they say, "Oh, I'm not good at making content. I'm not really good at, putting videos out there. Can you help me?" Yes and no. The average consumer today has to have over 17 touch points before they even think about making a decision. Matter of fact, I heard yesterday that said that the average person will listen to up to 7 hours of your content before they take the second step. And I think everything that like Nick and Jeff and everyone's talking about here is helping aid that. But number one, the most important thing is you really got to figure out who you are and what is your authentic self. What is your authentic practice? And especially in chiropractic, where it is vast, as wide and deep as possible. We have everything from, straight chiropractors to doctors that do functional medicine to pediatrics to, geriatrics. So number one, differentiating yourself in the marketplace, and then finding an authentic voice of who you are and your best medium. And I think Jeff will talk about this probably a little bit more, but I feel like everyone kind of has one thing that they're really good at. Some people are probably really good at writing, and I'm sure Lauren will probably talk about this as far as SEO and give some tips about that. And other people are really good on camera or a podcast. So find out whatever you're good at and start diving into that. And there's so many tools and ways to kind of repurpose content today. But number one, find out who you are, and number two, start diving into your authentic, your voice.
I think this is so important, Bo, that you brought this up, because Dr. Stephen, we have talked about this in our remarkable CEO journey. It's the first step is an identity shift. And it's this idea of going from the owner operator, head down, bum up, all my value I've got that's come because of the work that I do, and it's done by me, to that identity shift of becoming the CEO, and we go into using leverage. And I think part of the shift, that the identity shift that many CEOs struggle with, and it's a challenge, is because they're so used to doing things the way that they've done it. They've been, quote unquote, successful to a degree, to the level that they've done it at. And I think that's a lot of times what actually holds us back. So as you were talking, as you were sharing that really jumped out to me, that's identifying your differentiating factor, like what is it that makes you different, is actually what is your uniqueness, right? It's understanding your uniqueness and who you are. And that's part of that identity, not only shift, but that identity discovery, right? And I think if you've been in practice for long enough, you get to a place where you start to identify, like, what is my passion within my passion? What is my lane within my lane? And identifying what that is. And I think that's so powerful that, as chiropractors, because there's so many things and areas that we can have expertise in, ways that we can reach people and serve people, identifying that's so important. So as CEOs, I'm speaking to you as CEOs, we can oftentimes have a tendency to chase shiny objects as well. And it's really important for us as visionaries first to identify, what does success look like? What is it that we're trying to accomplish? What does that look like? And getting clear there. And that will help us then discern, where do we want to invest our resources, Dr. Stephen, as you talked about as well, those limited resources that we have, and doing that wisely. I feel like, Lauren, this is like, Bo, you kind of said, this is an area where you have expertise. You've worked outside of the chiro space. You're now in this chiro space. You've worked in other medical spaces. You've been in the marketing world for some time, and you're not a chiropractor, Lauren. Where, just so far with this conversation, I love what we're having here. Where is this landing for you? What's jumping out to you as being the priority where doctors, CEOs need to be focusing, right now?
Yeah, definitely authenticity. People and consumers can sniff out someone who's being inauthentic or who is not putting their true self forward really, really quickly. And they're bombarded with inauthentic messaging or shallow messaging by big box companies, by other providers. Their inboxes are full with hundreds of emails, text messages, and communications that they get hit with on social. So if your voice is relatable, it's empathetic, and it's authentic, you're guaranteed to have people gravitate to you. And when you're looking at that through the lens of social, creating that community around the value that you're providing can be such a powerful lead generation tool and engagement tool for your current patients. So just to, again, echo what everyone was saying, authenticity really is the key for creating content. And even when you're looking at SEO, putting your mission and your values within that really helps people find your voice and your expertise.
So this is really good news, guys, because everything gets easier in marketing when you market this way, right? So frankly, you've got two choices. You can either find your uniqueness and your passion and lean into it, find a lot of energy and content, and you will be an expert in that space. It's the things that you love to talk about, right? We love to talk about the things we're really good at, right? So this is going to be much easier for you to generate great content, tell a compelling story, and to connect with people. Or you can just have a price war, right? And you just be a race to the bottom and see how cheaply you can give away your services. And next thing you know, you're trying to be the discount chiropractor in town. Those are your two choices. Okay. So you can just get lost in the fray, jump into the bloody red ocean and try to beat your neighboring chiropractor on price, or you can get into your uniqueness, right? Identify and to establish a brand, and your community knows you're the go-to person for blank, right? Once you establish that, you're going to have more people than you know what to do with, and you can charge whatever you want to charge because people want to actually come and see you. So I want to double click on something that Bo pointed out there was you have to be patient in your marketing, right? So you have to be patient, but you have to verify, right? So we're going to rumble around inside of our CEO toolbox for a second and just remember our peer process: assess, plan, prepare, execute, assess, repeat, right? So this lives in your marketing for sure. You want to make sure that you're tracking, okay? So you want to have your analytics, you want to have your metrics. It's not just spray and pray. You want to make sure that you're getting good feedback so that you know that you're trending properly, you're making adjustments, etc. In marketing, they used to say, hey, 80% of your results comes from 20% of your investment. The problem is you don't know what 20%. Well, you know what? That's not true anymore. You know exactly what 20%, right? So now you want to be assessing, you want to be measuring. Like Bo said, people need to see you over and over and over again before they take action. That's where the patience comes in. Because ultimately what we know in marketing, as we went through in a couple of episodes back, those three rings that overlap, that Venn diagram, three things have to happen simultaneously for somebody to take action. That first circle in that Venn diagram was me. You're talking to me. You're talking about me. And what you're saying right now resonates with me. That's the empathetic connection. The second sphere, the second circle was the thing. Yeah, that's the thing that I want, or the thing that I want to get rid of, right? And then the third circle, which is probably the one that causes us to have to be seen 7 times or 37 times, depending on who you ask, it's the now. It's right now. The pain of not taking action right now is worse than the pain of the risk of taking action right now, right? So when it's me, you're talking to me, that's the thing I'm trying to accomplish, or the thing I'm trying to get rid of, or now it's me right now. When those three things overlap, that's when people click the link. That's when people call your office. That's when people take the scariest step they ever take in their relationship with you, which is walking through your doors for the first time into a strange place filled with strange people doing strange things. All right. So I want to talk a little bit more about messaging. Patrick, once we establish that message, that thing we love to talk about, there's lots of ways to get, that message out, whether we're just pushing our content out there and hoping people find it. We're doing a podcast, right? We're sending email communications. We're making YouTube content, but you've got a unique way to reach. Tell us a little bit about this platform that you developed. And I love it because you're just making it easier for our docs to reach more people.
Yeah. So it's, again, Digital Care 100. It's super simple. Most docs know they need to be creating content a lot. Again, we go back to knowing how to do it and what to talk about, right? So one of the first things we did is we actually built a content library of over 200 topics that doctors can leverage. And then they've got the ability to record a video right there on their phone using a teleprompter. So we know we can nail it on the first time, right? So we don't have to take time after time to record these videos. And then one of the great things I like about it and how I use it in practice is when I get that question from a patient about, hey, hey doc, what are some low back stretches I can do? In the past, before I was doing something like this, I would address that patient right there. Now, I may have other patients waiting on the tables, right? So that was going to snowball me a little bit in having that conversation with that patient. And likely he's going to forget stretch number 2 or 3, and he's only going to remember one of them, and he's going to come ask me that same question on the next visit, right? So thinking and saving time, right? The ability to record that video once and now say, hey, Mr. Smith, I'm going to send you a video on that later tonight. Great, he leaves. And then we text that video right to him that evening. So when he's sitting on his couch at home, he gets that video. And it's me, it's Dr. Donnelly, the doctor taking care of him, walking him through those stretches. Now he has it on his phone. He can review it anytime, right? And I can move on with my day and then leverage that video via text, email, social media. I can put it on my website to help with SEO, right? So the ability to take the content you create, distribute it across all channels, and then also have it at your fingertips to use across different patients as they come in. So, we've talked with you about the dirty dozen, the ability to just set that dirty dozen up so that you can communicate those messages, hammer home that table talk so that the education piece of it sticks, right? Providing more value to that patient, not just when they're within your 4 walls, but that you're thinking about them when they're outside your office.
I love this, man. One of our premises in the Remarkable Practice is ABC, always be converting, right? So it's not just converting in the very beginning of care, but it's converting to the next step. Like, what's the next step for this person, right? So obviously retention is a series of conversions. They're micro conversions, one after another. And I love this technology because you know what, at the end of the day, how many people really love chasing patients down who are missing appointments or dropping out of care? What do? You grab your phone and you call them up and you're like, hey, what's going on? It's Dr. Franson. I'm concerned about you. I'm checking on you, right? So you're doing the same thing, right? So you're jumping on your phone and you're spending your time and energy doing something that you're chasing somebody who has already made a decision to be out of your practice, right? Instead of doing that, use the same technology in the same time to be continually building a greater relationship, building a greater understanding of the value of continued chiropractic care using the same tool, same technology. And I'd love to point out that teleprompter is actually built right into the app. And you're actually using the teleprompter on the phone itself. It's not like the big teleprompter that I have. So I love that, Patrick.
Yeah, and I also want to speak to the framework on this one, Patrick. I love this because a lot of times it feels like we're being reactive in our practices, right? And this is a strategy that has a proactive energy to the reactive response, right? So you're combining a proactivity with the reaction. In other words, you're already know this is going to happen. So it's that predictable success. Like I know this is going to be happening. So therefore I've created this in advance. And that's, again, going back to the CEO framework, what's important now, what's important next. I know this is going to be important next. Therefore, I know the investment that I make now is important. And I think this goes to the conversation that we're having as far as content. You talked about content. Nick talked about content. Jeff's talked about content. Everybody's talked about content. Lauren, the content is so important that we're putting out there, that it's authentic, that it's aligned, that it's both, again, proactive and also handles the reactive side. Because I think that's where a lot of this is that we just says, well, screw it. Let's just go get more new patients. That solves all the problems. It's like, you know what? Not really. That's not the mature way. That's not the way the CEO wants to think. We got to be thinking more about retention in addition to attraction. I love the connectedness between, the conversation, the communication, leveraging the content to both drive attraction, but also drive retention. And I think, we say what you win them with, you win them to. In other words, there's not a mixed messaging going on here. I'm the same person I was when you saw me on Facebook as I am 6 months later when I'm saying, why are you not, making your adjustments, or why have you not been doing your exercises, supportive exercises at home, or whatever that might be. Dr. Kirby, I want to throw it over to you, man, because, for me, this was my first real step into the digital space, was actually running ads. Like I never done that before. And it was brand new years ago. And, it really felt like, I don't know, this is, I guess, what we're supposed to do. So you just start doing things because you want to reach more people. But I know that there's a science to this. There's an art to it. There's a philosophy to it. There's a strategy. And I love hearing from you and how you do that and make it easy for the doctors. Can you talk about this, in the context of content and consistency and being in front of people over time, like we've been talking about? Talk about that when it comes to advertising, specifically like direct advertising, which I know is a space in the market that you guys are really focused right now. Hey, CEOs, quick question. Do you know what works in digital marketing and what doesn't? If you're like many of the CEOs we have helped, then you're probably frustrated with the seemingly endless changes in digital marketing, the difficulties generating consistent new patients, and with underperforming marketing campaigns. You know that just 10 to 15 additional new patients per month every month would be a total game changer for you and your practice. But implementing a strategy to actually achieve that goal seems unattainable. What would happen if we showed you a system that makes attracting new patients easier and puts you in a virtual room with all the marketing experts you could ever need? That would be a game changer for your practice, right? So join us and our panel of marketing experts and coaches at the new Patient Attraction Immersion March 26th and 27th, and we will help you establish a strategy that you can easily execute the following Monday. This completely virtual training event will help you and your team tackle things such as content marketing, SEO, virtual presentations, virtual consults, social media, digital ads, reviews and testimonials, YouTube, and so much more with greater confidence and clarity. We've assembled this incredible team of coaches and experts to guide you and your team through the new changes and challenges of marketing in 2021. We'll skill, drill, and troubleshoot your new patient attraction comprehensively through deep diving content on internal, external, and digital marketing strategies. You'll learn how to create a plan and a schedule to implement these tactics the moment you and your team walk back into your practice on Monday. And when you register now, you'll get 66% off tickets for yourself and your entire team. This seminar is regularly $29.97 when you attend at a live venue, and it's now available online for only $9.97 because it will be streaming live directly to you. So go to www.theremarkablepractice.com/events to register today. Again, that's www.theremarkablepractice.com/today and register today. And now back to our conversation.
Yeah, look, one thing that we see is we see a variety of chiropractors. And from basically when I think about what level, there's basic levels that I see within a chiropractor becoming a CEO and creating an organization. And the first ones that I kind of see are the ones that are butted everywhere. It's like they're in a room full of like papers going everywhere and they just can't maintain focus. And so what we aim to do is to be able to help them to leverage themselves by taking one of those pieces of paper and just doing that shit for them. So we leverage the doctors that we have and some of their content to help these guys out and really lift them out of that hole and get them to the point where they can even leverage and can even do something to get it to achieve a result. So there's that aspect of what we do, so that no matter what level you're at within chiropractic or within your practice, we can kind of help you, if that makes sense, and get an actual result. With things like Facebook and even Google, there's an element of predictability, which is what we need within a practice. We need to be able to say, all right, cool. If I put this in, what can I expect is my ROI? What can I expect to convert based on all my stats? And where can I go with this? So what we do is we have periodic reviews with people and help them to understand their numbers, what their return on investment is like. A lot of them are 20 plus, like 20 times, a return on investment. And when they see those sort of numbers, why wouldn't you want to put more money into that? Why wouldn't you want to be doing more of that? And what that happens is as they go through this process, you start to see them calm down and their focus starts to basically laser in. And that's where you see the authenticity really come out. That's where you start to see a doc go, cool, I can now create these videos and they don't look like shit, right? And they don't look like I'm trying to sell some crap, to someone on Facebook or whatever. So that's the way we kind of take people through that process. It's not forced. It's just, all right, cool. So where are you at? I want to understand, like, based on your stats and where you're sitting. And if they're working with TRP, if they're not, we kind of get them into TRP. We might have a bit of bias, but that's just how it is.
And we appreciate that.
Yeah. And basically help them to understand that in any business, it's about inflowing people, but then understanding your stats and how to really leverage yourself and understand how to continually create more ROI. So if you're putting in X amount, this month, you put in more next month, you should get more of a result. So that's the way we focus.
As I listen, I'm reminded of the marketing metaphors of farming versus hunting, right? So I'm hearing really primarily a lot of farming, but Dr. Steve, I think you guys, we'd classify you as hunting, right? So, one is more of an agricultural process. It's more of a long game, if you will. Whereas the hunting is, I got to feed my family tonight. Let's get out there, take action and trigger a response. So regardless of whether you're hunting or farming, my thought process is always drive people to your website, right? So let's make sure that we get them off of the social media platform and onto the website so that they can book a call or book an appointment or what have you and interact and engage. Very often when people see you on one platform, they see you on Facebook, they see you on Instagram, they see you on LinkedIn or whatever, they end up at your website. They're going to go stalk you, right? They're going to go check you out and vice versa. So, Bo, I'm going to throw this one over to you, buddy. So if we're generating this attention in other places and they're like, okay, I'm ready to take action. They click the link and they're landing on that website. Talk to us, like, what are some of the pitfalls that we want to avoid on a website or some of the like must-haves? I know you're going to be doing a lot of this at the Attraction Immersion, but just pick a couple of favorites so people can get some early wins and audit their own website, taking a look at it right now.
Totally. So I think when we're talking about websites from a CEO perspective, it comes down to two things. The first one is data, which is kind of sounding like a resounding symbol over and over with all of these experts here. And in my opinion, the second one is design. So you have to be able to measure data. And I think Dr. Steven was just talking about that too. Like, hey, we look at the numbers, and if we're doing good, then we're going to pour more gas on the fire. And if we're not, then we better pull back and pivot. Or we need to actually have the data to figure out where we're ranking at for the search terms that we want. We often hear all of these chiropractic companies say, I'll get you rank number one, but it's like, great, what am I ranking number one for? People always want to rank number one for chiropractic, but what happens if you're a pediatric chiropractic? I don't want 90-year-old people calling my practice every day. I want moms to be or families with young kids. So you got to, number one, know the data. I'm a big advocate for having a dashboard. As a CEO, I'm all about dashboards. I want to see my dashboard for marketing, internal marketing, external marketing, my systems. I mean, we're kind of beat into our head inside the CEO program by you, Dr. Steven and Pete, of having KPIs and keeping on track. So when it comes to marketing, that is just another one of these things, right? We talked about attraction, conversion, and retention. So now that we're diving into the attraction phase, we got to have the data at our hand. Now, when we're talking about our website from a design perspective, again, it goes back to number one, authenticity. The number one thing that I see everyone screw up on their website is stock imagery. If you could do anything right now to your website, go on your first page of your website, and we should find a minimum of 3 to 5 pictures of you, of your staff, of your practice, a beautiful video about you talking about who you are and the people that you serve. If you did nothing but that, that would level up your website more than anything else. And I know I'll talk about this and probably kick this over to Dr. Nick here as well, but you got to have a story. You got to have a brand story and understand that you're not here to be the hero in the story. You're there to basically help guide them along the process. And I'm going to kick this one to you, Nick, over, because I know you really specialize in this as well. But really, guys, saying, hey, look, I need the data, but then what the design is authentically who we are as a practice. And then what is our story to the community, and how can we help them along their path and their journey? Nick, what are your thoughts?
100% agree. You mentioned a story. So if you haven't read the book, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, Bo and I have talked about that in the past. And I just think that chiropractic as a profession started out a certain way with websites and has just kind of continued on with that, which is chiropractors don't think of them as something that they need to be involved in. And they just find the cookie cutter website that gives them the most nonsensical, like irrelevant pages, like the 3D spine simulator. Like that stuff just doesn't matter. What matters is that when somebody comes onto your website, they can get a sense of what your practice is about. Like what Bo said with the pediatric chiropractors, that should come through loud and clear when a 90-year-old person lands on that website, to where it almost repels them. You should be worried about repelling as many people as you attract. We're only seeing 10% of the professions or of the population. So there's plenty of people out there to attract the right kind of person. And that comes with your content, and that continues with your website.
Let me add one more thing here. And I think Jeff will be able to to really dive into this a little bit, but it's about the content and the design working together. And I know with everything that Jeff does with his Smart Chiro program with Dr. Jason Deitch as well, is that it really just tees that up for you. A lot of people, I'd probably say 70-80% of chiropractors really kind of serve the bread and butter profession, or the bread and butter of what chiropractic is: head, neck, low back pain, wellness, lifestyle. And your content and your design need to match together. And they have a whole system that kind of runs through that a little bit. And Jeff, do you want to kind of talk about kind of how those two maybe integrate and how they kind of feed off one another as well?
Yeah, I think you guys have brought up some fantastic points, and I think about it in terms of content and context, right? So there's the content, which is what's out there. What are you passionate about? As Dr. Nick outlined, and you spoke about as well. It's like, what's your unique message? What's your unique voice? And, how do you transmit that to people? That's the context, right? The content is great. Like, here's what I'm passionate about, but the context is putting that into action, as you sort of described, taking pictures, utilizing the video, as Patrick's discussed, having those ads, as Dr. Stevens talked about, creating that unique and custom content, as Dr. Nick's discussed, right? Really being able to action that is where the rubber meets the road, because you got to identify who you are and who you're trying to attract. But then you have to get that message out and meet people where they're at in a way that makes sense, so you can showcase the benefits of who you are and what you do. And then that gives you the opportunity to start building relationships, which is ultimately, I think, what it's all about being a chiropractor.
If I can throw one more thing in here too, because I know
go.
a lot of doctors are looking for resources as well. Is if you are a person that it does serve a niche, and we talk about ranking, and that's really, really important with SEO. There's a website called localviking.com where you can literally type in your name of who you are and like the practice that you serve, like pediatric chiropractic. And we were just working with the doctor in San Diego last week. And he's like, I don't know why I'm ranking for pediatric chiropractic, you know? And we go into look, and guess what? There's only been like 50 searches for pediatric chiropractic in San Diego. But you type in the word kid chiropractic and there's 200,000 searches, right? So you got to be really careful about what you want your website to rank for as well. So not only do you have a great brand story and you great authenticity of who you are, but then really what is Google seeing on the backside of it? And, you know, I'll dive more into that when we have this attraction immersion. I got this full hour to kind of lay it out, guys. But to kind of give you an overview, I hope that kind of gives you a little bit of a taste as far as what I'm going to hopefully bring to you guys as far as CEOs, and give you guys an actionable plan that you can kind of take in and implement that day.
So good. I love that we've been talking about this journey, because that's, as a CEO, that's what you have to think about. You have to think about the client's journey. Stop thinking about yourself. Like, I think it was Dr. Nick who said, you're not the hero on this journey. Or maybe it was Dr. Bo, because we all speak the same language. It's like your patients are the hero on their journey. We're a Sherpa guiding them on their journey, right? So in the Remarkable Practice, you hear us teach, they go from somebody who is the seeker when they're looking for a solution. They come in the office, they convert, they become a believer. And you have to take them from a believer to an understander, and from an understander to the advocate, who's somebody who is the promoter in your practice, right? So that's the client journey. You have to think about this. So, you know, Kirby might be running an ad where they first find you, they first see you, and then they go check you out and they land on your website. And then, you know, they land on a site that has the story begin, right? So we start telling the story with the great content, great pictures, a video. They get a feel for you, like, man, that sounds like me, and that's the thing, and it's right now. So they click and they show up in your office. And next thing you know, that story that got them to come in, it's the same story that they hear and they see when they come into your practice, because it's authentically you, right? You've actually thought this out. And then Patrick Donnelly's got his system where the story continues, right? So next thing you know, visit 1, visit 2, visit 3, visit 12. They're getting the dirty dozen dripping to them. It's the continuation of the story on the journey. And then they go to your YouTube channel because they want to share the content with their friends. And it's the same story. It's just the next step in their journey, man. I hope you see that this never stops. It's, you know, as soon as you stop, that's when they're going to stop. You have to think about the communication across the entire journey.
Yeah, I you know, when you said that, and as I'm hearing this, there's this concept of, you know, uniqueness and authenticity. Also, this concept of omnipresence, of being across, you know, all the platforms, and having consistent communication and consistent value wherever I find myself. So if I saw you on Facebook, I checked out your ad and I was close to clicking, but I was like, let me check them out. You know, everybody's checking you out. So then they're going to go where, you know, they're going to Google search you or whatever. Next thing you know, maybe YouTube pops up because you've put a ton of content in YouTube. So that's your highest rank. Or maybe your website pops up because that happens, and they're going to click one or click both and click all of it. Is that consistent communication message being found on all platforms? Have you neglected some of those platforms? Are you consistently putting that out? We had the consistency came up earlier about being consistent is the new intensity, consistency. And Lauren, I know this is an area that you have just a ton of insight in. You've really helped us, and you've brought that visibility to us and saying, hey, are you aware of the platforms that are available? Are you using them? Is your message getting out there consistently? Is the authentic message that you want your people to see being seen? Is it driving people to take action in the next step that you want them in the journey? Can you just talk about that, like that integration of that omnipresence, that concept of, you know, you have all these platforms that people are going to be, like Bo said, 7 hours, 17 touches. You know, it's like touches. They're going to be checking you out for a while. So can you talk to that a little bit, and how to be consistent and just being also leveraging the different platforms?
Yeah, absolutely. Consistency really is the key. And if you're being authentic, it will come second nature. But just to give you some statistics, it all really starts with having a plan and having a strategy. If you don't know where to start, putting it on paper and writing it down and documenting it and fleshing it out visually if you need to is the very first step you need to establish consistency. And just to kind of give you guys some insight, most marketing teams report a 313% increase in their success when they go from just winging it to actually strategizing it out. So the ROI in investing that time and investing your efforts into creating a schedule, I know I have these 10 platforms that I need to tend for my garden. How many days a week am I doing this? How many places can I outsource this effort to and this burden to so that I can focus on the things that I know well, love, and am passionate about? So starting with the strategy, that's the absolute key for consistency.
I'm going to add another word that we love to talk about, which is accountability. So CEOs love to hate accountability, right? We love to be held accountable. And I think one of the strengths of what Dr. Nick does, what I've heard over and over again from our clients, is that everybody knows they should create great content. Everybody knows that they should create more content. Everybody knows that they should be more consistent with their content creation, but they get stuck on exactly what should I be creating, and there's no accountability around it actually getting it done. So Nick, I just appreciate that. Speaking of like, how important is it that you have essentially an accountability partner that says, here's your content, this is the outline, this is the schedule we have to follow, here's the calendar, etc. How powerful is it to actually have some level of accountability around this?
I mean, I think it's probably the most important thing, because the reason why I started Leverage Media as a done for you marketing agency instead of a coaching program was because I think when it comes to marketing, there's so much technical and time consuming pieces to it that even if I sat here and we had a 50-hour podcast where I literally just laid out every single thing I knew, 10% of the profession would love it and they would take action on it, and 90% would do nothing. And it's not that they don't love the ideas. Everybody who talks to me at the bar loves the ideas, but I'll do a strategy session with somebody. They'll be like, oh, maybe in a few months, right? I'll look in a few months at if they've done anything. Even after I told them everything they should do, they don't do anything. So it's the same idea as like your patients that come in, like if you have like a weight loss program, I always think that's a good analogy. You can look up on the internet how to do keto or how to like do some exercises. The reason why they pay you for these programs is because of the accountability. And it's like they have proven results. There's the accountability piece, and it gets done, and they just want the result. They don't really care about how the sausage gets made. They just want the result. And creating content and doing it in a way that's actually going to move the needle for your practice, I think the only way that it gets done is if you're accountable to somebody.
So good. All right, guys, we're going to wrap this with a speed round. Okay. So what I'd love for you to hear from you guys is like looking back over your shoulder in the last 12 months, a lot has changed, right? So a lot has changed across the board, but definitely in marketing and marketing chiropractic specifically. If you were to say like this one thing you've seen change and it stands out to you as a significant thing, what would that one thing be that's really changed since the Corona catastrophe of 2020? Bo Pierce, I'm going to start with you, buddy.
Absolutely easy. Rally your tribe. That's what it comes down to. Speak your message to who you are and to your tribe, and your tribe will carry you through. The power's in the people.
Love it. Kirby.
I've seen the fact that how important it is to have this digital arm, and people who have put it off for so long, COVID's going to kick them in that direction, whether it be running a workshop online or running some ads online. They realize that the importance of digital now these days, and maintaining communication and being able to leverage themselves, so they don't have to be in front of someone.
So good. Dr. Patrick.
I think it's what a lot of these docs have said. We like to say to make your content binge worthy, right? Be the Netflix of chiropractic, so that whether they find you on Facebook or YouTube or your website, that the story's there. There's so much content, so much value there, so that you can get those 17 touches, those 17 hours, whatever that may be, to provide that value. Just provide value.
Dr. Nick.
That Facebook ad coupons that strategy has gone to shit. Like, even if you're still getting leads, the people don't show up. And if that's all you're doing, it's just that's not a digital strategy. That's like a single tactic. And all these people that lost that external piece kind of got caught with their pants down, that they hadn't built the brand in the time when the hunting was good. They weren't farming. I'm a big believer in farming and hunting, the same way I'm a big believer of offline and online marketing. And so just relying on putting a coupon in front of tens of thousands of people that live near you, and that's your only digital presence, is a bad idea.
All right, Dr. Jeff.
Overall, the importance of digital marketing. It's not since the 1920s or 30s have chiropractors been unable in some places to be able to actually go in and serve people. So being able to connect with individuals when you are unable to see them face to face, whether by choice, by law, or whatever it might be, is incredibly impactful. So finding those areas of opportunity online and digitally where you can continue to connect, add value, and create revenue for your practice is more important than ever and will continue to be in the future.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to bring it in-house. Lauren.
Yeah, I think that there's been a big shift from people being price sensitive, searching for the big deal, shopping around to figure out who has a coupon, and they're looking at the value of the experience. Are you going to be my partner in my health and wellness? Are you going to help me get better if I'm seeking your solution because of an issue? And if you're not leveraging digital for that value and that expertise and becoming a trusted authority in your community, then you're going to struggle.
Beautiful, beautiful. Dr. Pete, why don't you bring us home?
Well, first of all, I just love this. I could spend more time. I think maybe it was Nick, said if we spent 50 hours together, that would be fun. Maybe another day, but we do get to spend a few hours together at our immersion coming up here in just a few weeks. So I'm excited about that. Thank you guys for already in advance for showing up and giving us your best. And I know that we are all going to benefit from hearing more from you at that time. So if this was valuable to you as a listener, make sure you and your team get registered for the upcoming immersions that are going to be happening. First is going to be happening in March. I believe it's the 26th and 27th. And then the other is going to be in May. I believe it's 6 and 7. You can go check our websites to confirm those exact dates. The big thing that jumps out to me, Dr. Stephen, is this concept looking back over the shoulder. I know if you're going to ask me that question too. I know I'm not a digital marketing expert, but mine was the opportunity. The opposition exposed the opportunity. With everything that everybody said, is that there's an opportunity that we all have. And I recently did this whole mindset moment on opportunity zones. And if you're not familiar with them, in the United States and North America, opportunity zones are economically depressed areas that investors recognize. They come in and they make investments and they raise up that area and that community. And we have it happening all over the United States. What I recognized when I was thinking about that was, what? This is an opportunity zone, guys. This right here is our opportunity zone. This is an area we're going to reach. People our nation, our world, it's from an economic standpoint, but from a health standpoint, it is a distressed time. And this is our opportunity zone. This is our way that we're going to reach them. Is we got to be present and be proactive and be engaged in these digital spaces and platforms. There's never been a better time to be a chiropractor. There's never been a better time. There's never been more opportunity for us to reach the people in our communities and have a bigger impact. There's never been a better way for us to use leverage and be the CEO than there is right now. And that was clearly identified today during our podcast. So again, thank each one of you so much for being a part of this podcast. Thank you so much for being a part of our upcoming attraction immersions and adding so much value to our remarkable tribe and family. And again, look forward to continuing in this awesome battle and fight and mission that so many of us are on together here in the days, weeks, months, and years ahead. Until the next episode, God bless you all, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, direct message us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Now go and be remarkable.